Critical Crime. I'm your host, Philly, and thank you for tuning in to another episode. To start off, I would like to apologize for the time in between episodes. School and life has been happening, and it's been taking most of my time, so I had to handle that. But another thing I would like to talk about is how much you guys interacted with my last video, the 4 cases of gangs on America. It did well for me just starting out, and I thought that I'll do another episode that had multiple cases. On today's episode, we'll have a 3-case special, including 2 mysterious deaths and 1 vile murder. Let's dive into it. Cue the crows. Case 1. Kenneka Jenkins was born in Chicago on May 27, 1998. As a child, she was smart, responsible, and she had a beautiful smile. She got along well with her mother, Teresa Martin, and helped take care of her when she had breast cancer surgery in 2017. Kenneka went to a party with her friends in room 926 of a Crowne Plaza Chicago O'Hare Hotel in Rosemont, Chicago. On Friday, September 8, 2017, the party began at 11:30 p.m. A friend who came to the party noticed that Kenneka looked like she was moving back and forth as she hugged him. Several people said they saw her drink cognac, but they didn't see her do drugs like pot or anything else. Another witness said that Kenneka wasn't acting like herself, pointing out that she danced a little bit, then sat down as if she was sad. She was seen quickly walking out with other people through one of the hotel's halls. Jenkins was seen stumbling near the front desk at 3:20 a.m. on the camera. About an hour later, Kenneka's friends got in touch with her mother, Teresa Martin. Around 5:30 a.m., Teresa Martin went to the hotel to help with the search. She then went to the top floor to the bottom floor, knocked on many guest doors until a hotel worker called 911 to say something was wrong. But hotel management said that they couldn't give access to video footage from the night before until someone told police that Kenneka was missing. The police told the hotel management that Kenneka was missing at 1:15 p.m. on Saturday. Later, family members said that the police first reaction didn't seem urgent. When police first looked at the camera footage from entrances and exits, they didn't find anything. However, at 10 p.m., they saw Kenneka stumbling through the hotel. No one knew where she was until Sunday at 12:48 a.m. when she was found dead in the hotel's freezer. She was found lying on her side with one shoe off and her head down. A small cut on her foot was the only sign that she had been hurt. About 2 hours after the doors were left open, the temperature inside the fridge was found to be 34 degrees Fahrenheit. The freezer was on and running. It was described as a walk-in freezer inside a walk-in cooler, and it was part of a kitchen that wasn't being used. When she went into both rooms, she found that the lights were out more than likely. There were still questions about why the freezer was turned on, but it was said that it was rented out to a restaurant at a hotel. Kenneka, who seemed to be drunk, was caught on security cameras stumbling through the hotel hallways. When she got to the kitchen, she turned a corner and headed for the freezer. The camera apparently couldn't see the freezer door, and CNN said that the tape that they got didn't show Kenneka going into the freezer, but community activist Andrew Holmes said the police showed him the video of Kenneka going into the freezer by herself, with no one nearby to help her. The Cook County Medical Examiner Office found that Kenneka's death was an accident on October 6, 2017. The autopsy report said that Kenneka did not have any banned drugs in her body, but that her blood alcohol level was 0.112, which is almost twice the legal limit. Her body was found to have traces of a drug that is used to treat epilepsy and migraine headaches, but she had never been given this medicine as a prescription. When taken with alcohol, this certain drug can make effects both worse and speed up the start of hypothermia, which was proven by the sores that were found in Kenneka's stomach. Brain growth was also seen, but this wasn't connected to what killed her. The Rosemont Police Department said in a statement the same day that they were still looking into what happened, even though they didn't think anyone did anything wrong. Kenneka's friends kept telling different things about what happened after the party. When Kenneka went missing, a friend told another friend that she had been drinking and went missing. Find Kenneka was sent through a text. The reply said, "I can't believe you guys lost her." They told Martin that Kenneka had went downstairs with some people, but they left her alone to go get a phone from one of the hotel rooms. In 2018, the family's lawyer, Jeffrey Feiger, sued the hotel and other people for $50 million. He showed pictures of a fridge door which had a lock button on the outside and said that someone might have locked the door by accident. This was found not to be true because the security camera hadn't caught anything else since August 30th, and hadn't caught anything after the Kenneka video. The picture in question was found to be false because it showed a lock and a real freezer that didn't compare to the real freezer that was found inside the hotel. The lawyer said that the hotel could have closed off the kitchen because they had two wooden doors with padlocks on them, but they didn't. So he tried to use that in his argument. He didn't succeed. My thoughts on this case would be that there could have been foul play involved, but the way it seems, more than likely, she was just intoxicated, and it was a very. I can't even say that I don't think foul play was involved because she could have been drugged earlier by someone who had bad intentions and it just went completely wrong. I don't want to put blame on her friends for saying that they shouldn't have left her, but I really don't think that they should have left her, even though I'm not putting blame on them because what happened, from what we know, isn't their fault. But I just wish that they didn't leave her alone because I feel like this case is missing a lot of questions. And as said earlier, the family felt like they didn't, the police didn't like fall into the investigation like they should have when it first happened, and all that evidence that could have been taken was probably looked over, missed out on, since the police didn't seem to care about it too much. But we know how stuff like this happens in America. But I just wish that this case could have had a better outcome and that the investigation could have been better. But for now, let's cue the crows for the next case. Case 2. Kendra Johnson's body was found on January 11, 2013, in the gym of Lowndes High School in Georgia. His head was in the middle of a rolled-up wrestling mat. The body was found by other students who had climbed up to the top of a group of mats, each of which was 6 foot tall and 3 feet wide. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation found that Johnson had died from positional asphyxia, and investigators in Lowndes County decided that his death was an accident. Authorities assumed that Johnson fell into the mat when he was looking for a shoe and couldn't get out. 3 students at Lowndes High School told investigators that it was normal for some students to store their shoes behind or under rolled-up mats. Johnson was not wearing shoes when he was found. A student at the school said that he and Johnson shared a pair of Adidas shoes and that after gym class, Johnson would always go to the mats, jump up, and throw the shoes in the middle of the hole. The Lowndes County Sheriff's Office investigation was led by Lieutenant Stride Jones, who said, "We never got a good evidence that this was anything other than an accident." This theory was questioned by the Johnson family. Unhappy with the results of the investigation, they hired William R. Andrews of Forensic Dimensions in Heathrow, Florida, on June 15, 2013, to do an independent autopsy of the body. Anderson said that his results showed that the right neck and soft tissues had signs of blunt force trauma, which suggested that the death was not an accident. After a private pathologist's review came out, Johnson's family said that they thought Johnson had been killed. The family hired lawyer Benjamin Crump to help them. On October 31st, 2013, the U.S. Attorney Michael J. Moore said that his office would start an official investigation into Johnson's death. Crump's request to be a lawyer in Georgia so that he could defend Johnson's family was not approved. He then stopped representing the family and is no longer involved in the case. Johnson's family went to court to start an investigation into how he died. The judge of the case put off making a decision until the U.S. Attorney finished looking into it. The family asked the governor of Georgia to start an investigation instead. The family held a rally at the Georgia State Capitol in Atlanta with the NAACP and other civil rights campaigners. The governor's office said that in a statement that they would wait for the U.S. Attorney to give their report. The independent autopsy found that Johnson's body had been stuffed with newspapers at some point after it was found on a mat and taken to the funeral home. The funeral home that took care of Johnson's body after the FBI autopsy said that they never got Johnson's organs from the coroner. The funeral home owner said that the organs were destroyed by natural processes and thrown away by the prosecutor before the body was sent back to Valdosta. That left a hole in the body which was filled by the funeral home. The owner of the funeral home said that this was a common way to fill an empty space and that straw or sawdust can be used for this. Johnson's family made a complaint against the funeral home owner with an official body. The Georgia Secretary of State office did a review and found that the funeral home did not follow best practice and that other materials were more acceptable than newspaper. Still, the review found that the funeral home did nothing wrong. A spokesperson for the Secretary of State said that the review found that the funeral home did not break any rules. After that, the Johnson family sued the funeral home in civil court, asking for money damages. Valdosta city officials agreed to let Johnson's family dig up his body for a second time after his family asked. Johnson's body was dug up on June 22, 2018. A court order in November 2013 gave CNN access to 290 hours of security footage from 35 cameras in the Jim area. A CNN hired forensic expert found that two camera tapes are missing an hour and a half of footage, and another set is missing 2 hours and 10 minutes of footage. Some of the gaps in coverage that seemed to happen were found to be caused by camera systems that were not working together. Some different camera systems had timestamps that were up to 20 minutes apart from the same time period. This made it look like there was a gap in time when there actually wasn't. Some of the lost footage was because the camera's motion activated feature did not work. Changes in light pixels could be used to turn on and off camera systems when there was movement. There was no security cameras in the area where Johnson's body was found. This was where the gym mats were kept. The lawyers for the Johnson family were afraid that the camera video had been changed to hide the truth, so the Valdosta Daily Times tried to figure out why the strange things were happening by looking at the camera systems. This made the idea of a cover-up less likely. The president of the Valdosta Lowndes County chapter of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and the former lead investigator for the chapter have said that they think the lawyers for Johnsons have not been entirely truthful in their statements and that there was no cover-up in the case. Johnson's family sued the Lowndes County Board of Education, the school's director, and the head of Lowndes High School for wrongful death. The suit said that on January 10, 2013, Johnson was violently attacked, severely hurt, and put through a lot of physical pain and mental anguish, and assaulted and put at risk of death. Even though the claim didn't name the person or the people who were allegedly involved in what happened on January 10th, nor did it say what race the alleged attackers were, it suggested that the alleged attack was based on race. The claim said that the defendants were careless and it broke Johnson's right to equal protection under the law because of his race. It said that the accused did not care that Johnson had been attacked or harassed by a white student in the past. It said that Johnson had been attacked on a bus trip 14 months before he died. The lawsuit also said that another student, we're going to call Boy X, had a history of provoking and attacking Johnson at school. It said that the attacks happened in front of the coaching staff and employees after Johnson's mother complained about previous attacks. The suit also said that school officials did not properly monitor the activities of students in the hallways or any area of campus, or kept a properly working video surveillance system. In August 2014, a $5 million lawsuit was filed against Ebony Magazine because they had published a series of stories that suggested two students might have killed Johnson. The magazine used fake names to talk about the boys, but everything else was true, like the fact that their fathers were an FBI agent. A secret email sent to the sheriff's office was used as a source for the story. In their case, the parents of the boys who had been accused say that their sons had did nothing wrong or did anything in the death and are not suspects, and have been harassed because of the story. In January 2015, Johnson's family went to the Superior Court of DeKalb County and sued 38 people for $100 million. 3 of Johnson's classmates, 2 of them who aren't named, and local, state, and federal officials like the school superintendent of Lowndes County, Valdosta Lowndes Crime Lab, and the police chief of Valdosta, and many more. The lawsuit said that the FBI agent told his 2 boys and a classmate to attack Johnson. It also said that Johnson's death was a murder and that the defendants worked together to hide the fact that he was killed. The Lowndes County attorney, Jim Elliott, said the accusations were unfounded and baseless, and that any reaction would be made in court. All of the local Superior Court judges said that they couldn't hear the case because they were too close to the accused. This stopped the lawsuit from being filed and reviewed in Lowndes County. In a statement released just before the lawsuit was filed, U.S. Attorney Michael J. Moore said that the federal investigation was still going on and that the investigation has turned out to be more complicated and taken longer than we first thought. After Moore quit in 2015, the case was given to U.S. Attorney Stephen Dettelbach to handle in the Northern District of Ohio. Shortly after this case was given to him, Dettelbach also quit. Even though these people quit, the investigation by the Department of Justice kept going. In November 2015, the Department of Justice asked to step in and stop the civil case by filing a motion. The U.S. Attorney said that letting the discovery of evidence in the civil suit go on would have a chilling effect on the federal probe, which had grown to look into the possibility of obstruction and grand jury witness tampering. After the Department of Justice motion was turned down, Johnson's parents dropped their own lawsuit for wrongful death, saying that they would try again when the government investigation was over. After that, they were sued for more than $850,000 in lawyer fees and $1 million in damages for slander. On June 20, 2016, the Department of Justice announced that they would not be filing any criminal charges related to Johnson's death. They said that after an extensive investigation into the tragic event, federal investigators determined that there is not enough evidence to prove beyond any reasonable doubt that someone or some group of people willfully violated Kendrick Johnson's civil rights or committed any other federal crimes that they should prosecute. On August 10, 2017, Georgia Judge Richard Porter ruled that Johnson's family and their lawyer had to pay more than $292,000 in legal fees to a dozen of people who responded to their civil suit. He wrote, "Testimony shows that they had no evidence to support their claims that the brothers killed Johnson or that any of the other defendants conspired to hide the cause or manner of Johnson's death." The case was given a new start on March 10, 2021, but Lowndes County Sheriff Ashley Polk said that they would not say the original investigation was wrong or that the original investigation finding that the death was an accident was wrong. The sheriff also said that he doesn't think this is a murder. He also said that two of the brothers named by the Johnsons in the past court cases are not suspects. The second probe ended in January 2022, and no charges were brought up. I'd like to mention how lately the Johnson family did file another lawsuit. I'll try to keep you guys updated on that to see if anything else happens. But my thoughts on this one is, growing up, let's be honest, we all probably heard this story, the case. We all more than likely saw the picture of Kendrick Johnson taking that knee in the gym for his senior pictures or his yearbook pictures. If you ask me, I do think this was a cover-up, and a good cover-up at that. But then again, from what it does sound like maybe they're just looking for something that's not there. But cover-ups do happen. They happen all the time. And if you ask me, this does sound like a cover-up. I just hope that the family can see justice. It's been 10 years since Kendrick Johnson was killed, or since he died, I should say, because there's technically no evidence to say that he was killed that was been released. But I just hope that his family can find peace. It's going to be hard because they still can't figure out if it was a accident, if it was a homicide, if there were anything else that played a fact. I do want to know what did actually happen to his organs, because I don't believe that they were just destroyed and that that happened. I do think that his organs could have been possibly trafficked. They talk about that a lot. If you've heard anything of this case, then you've more than likely heard the organ trafficking issue and how they say that organs from people of different races, like black organs, are more expensive. We've more than likely all heard of things like that. Just hope that we can figure out what actually happened, and that Kendrick Johnson's family could receive peace and closure. Cue the crows for the last case. This case contains the death of children. Viewer discretion is advised. Tylee Ashton Ryan and Joshua Jackson Vallow were two American children from Chandler, Arizona, who went missing in September 2019 and were discovered buried in shallow graves on June 9, 2020 in Rexburg, Idaho. When the bodies were discovered, they were discovered in the backyard of Chad Daybell, their mother's lover at the time of their deaths, and her husband when discovered. Tylee was last seen alive on September 8, 2019 at Yellowstone National Park, while her younger adopted brother, JJ, was last seen alive on September 22, 2019. Police questioned the children's mother, Lori Vallow Daybell, about their location and well-being in November 2019. Lori and her new husband, Chad Guy Daybell, stated that JJ was visiting a family friend, Melanie Gibb, in Arizona before heading to Idaho in early September 2019. Gibb, however, later rejected this accusation, and while looking for JJ, detectives realized that Tylee was also gone. A line of strange deaths occurred in the midst of the disappearances. Charles Vallow, Lori's estranged fourth husband, was shot and killed in July 2019 by Lori's brother, Alexander Cox, who claimed self-defense. Cox would later die in December 2019 from a blood clot. Brandon Bordeaux, Lori's niece, Venice's estranged husband, was shot from a vehicle that was registered to Charles Vallow in October 2019. Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife at the time, was attacked in her driveway that same month and died 10 days later on October 19th from what were initially listed as natural causes. Tammy's body was exhumed by law enforcement officers following Chad and Lori's marriage, revealing that she had died from suffocation. Chad Guy Daybell was born August 11, 1968, in Provo, Utah. He married Tamara Tammy Douglas on March 9, 1990, in Manti, Utah. He earned a BA in journalism from Brigham Young University in 1992 and worked as a cemetery sexton or gravedigger, among other things. Chad started Spring Creek Book Company in 2004 to self-publish his end of a world fiction and other religious publications. His business partner of this endeavor was a graphic artist and manager known only as Douglas of Media. Garth, Emma, Seth, and Lee, and Mark were Chad and Tammy's 5 children. Chad stated in 2015 that he heard a strange voice in his mind telling him to move to Rexburg, Idaho, and that June, him and Tammy would relocate from Springville, Utah. Lori Noreen Cox was born in Loma Linda, California. She married her high school sweetheart, Nelson Yanes, in 1992 when she was 19, but her marriage would soon end in divorce. She had been married several times. Lori married William LaGoya in October 1995 when she was 22 years old. They divorced in 1998 after having a son named Kobe. Lori married Joseph Anthony Ryan Jr. in 2001, and Kobe was formally adopted by him. Tylee, the couple's biological daughter, was born in 2002. In 2015, they would also divorce. Lori's brother, Alex Cox, assaulted Ryan in 2007, saying that he had been cruel to Lori and the children. Cox received a prison sentence for this event. Ryan later died of a heart attack in his residence in 2018. Lori, his next of kin, was notified, but his family was not alerted until 5 weeks later after no one had claimed his body. Lori then married Leland Anthony Vallow, sometimes known as Charles, in Las Vegas, Nevada, in February 2006. For Lori, Charles was a lifelong Catholic converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. From a previous marriage, Charles has 2 sons. They adopted his grandnephew, Joshua Jackson Vallow, in 2013. In late 2014, the couple relocated to Kauai, Hawaii. Lori became interested in Chad Guy Daybell, Standing in Holy Places series of books in about 2015. The Vallows returned to Arizona in 2016, and Lori met Chad for the first time at a Preparing the People event in the fall of 2018. Chad told Lori that they had been married 7 times before. Following that, they began conversing privately. Lori's husband left on a business trip soon after their first meeting, allowing her to host a modest overnight gathering at their house. Chad and Gibb were among those present, and Chad enthralling Lori and the group with his peculiar religious ideas. He claimed to have lived 31 incarnations on other worlds and classified people as light or dark based on their relationship with Jesus Christ or Satan. Lori was described by Chad as an eternal being, having 21 distinctive lifetimes, 5 of which paralleled with his own on Earth. Lori was captivated by this belief system, which led her to her strong attachment to Chad and his teachings. Chad and Lori appeared on Preparing the People podcast episode Time to Warrior Up on December 5th, 2018. Chad later visited the Vallow home in Arizona. Chad and Lori had a well-documented fixation with a Mormon-influenced apocalyptic beliefs, which Chad expressed in a number of books and podcasts. Lori's niece, Melanie Bordeaux, is said to hold similar ideas. Vallow's views include a belief in zombies, according to a 2020 affidavit. Vallow and Daybell allegedly told Melanie Gibb, their close friend, that they are members of a Church of the Firstborn, a fundamentalist Mormon group that is sometimes labeled as a doomsday cult. Lori informed Charles Vallow in February 2019 that she no longer loved him or cared about him. She claimed to be Joseph Smith's reincarnated wife and vanished for 58 days. Charles filed for divorce that same month, citing threats to his life as well as the loss of $35,000 from their joint bank account and his truck. On the advice of his attorney, he requested a protective order against Lori. On July 11, 2019, Lori's brother Alex Cox shot and murdered Charles in Chandler, Arizona, claiming self-defense. Cox claimed that after being assaulted with a bat, he confronted Charles about beating his sister and recovered his revolver. Tylee and JJ observed the incident, and police did not pursue it further. Lori was charged with conspiracy to murder Charles in June 2021. Following his death, Charles' counsel indicated that he was primarily worried for JJ's safety and well-being, since he required a steady routine due to his special requirements. Charles was likewise concerned about Tylee. Nonetheless, he was unable to include her in the files since she was not his biological daughter, and thus he lacked legal standing. 1 month later, he withdrew a petition saying he wanted to try and make the marriage work. Tammy reported being shot in her driveway. In case you forgot, Tammy is Chad's wife, by the way. In case you guys forgot. This is the situation. Tammy reported being shot in her driveway on October 9th, 2019, by a masked man wielding an allegedly malfunctioning paintball marker. The perpetrator has yet to be recognized. Tammy was discovered dead in her home 10 days later, reportedly from natural causes. Chad stated that she had gone to bed the night before with a terrible cough and died in her sleep. Tammy's body was not autopsied at first because Chad refused and the coroner accepted his decision. Tammy's body, however, was unearthed and examined 2 months later. The autopsy results were completed by February 2021. They were made public during Lori Vallow's trial on April 23, 2023. Tammy Daybell has been asphyxiated by someone else, it was discovered by the autopsy. Shortly later, the Vermont County Prosecutor's Office indicated that they would take over the case. Emma, one of Tammy and Chad's children, stated in a subsequent interview that her family had not been notified with the results of her mother's autopsy. JJ was last seen playing with a friend on September 23, 2019, according to a doorbell video. His last known sighting was at Kennedy Elementary School in Rexburg. On September 24th, Lori notified the school that she was withdrawing JJ from classes in order to homeschool him. Tylee was last seen in Yellowstone National Park on September 8, 2019, with her brother JJ, mother Lori, and uncle Alex Cox. Tylee's older half-brother, Kobe Ryan, received 2 Venmo payments from her account in October 2019 with love-expressing texts attached. The last time Kobe heard from Tylee, that would be the last time Kobe would hear from Tylee. When he texted Tylee, he received messages from his cell phone suggesting that she was safe but too busy to talk. Kobe became increasingly concerned after numerous calls to Tylee remained unanswered. Chad and Lori's marriage happened in Hawaii on November 5th, 2019, just 2 weeks after Chad's first wife, Tammy Daybell, had died. During this time, they misled people by claiming that Tylee died in 2017 or that Lori had no minor children. On November 26th, police went to Lori's townhouse in Rexburg to check on JJ's welfare at his grandma's request. JJ, Lori claimed, was in Arizona with a family friend, Melanie Gibb, as previously mentioned. When police approached Gibb, she indicated that JJ had not been with her for some months. A neighbor noticed Lori and Alex Cox packing a truck outside her house that night. When the police and FBI arrived the next day to search the residence, it was abandoned. Investigators also investigated Chad's residence. Gibb ultimately called the cops, reporting that Lori and Chad had both encouraged her to lie about JJ's whereabouts, but she refused. Police investigations into JJ's disappearance revealed that Tylee was also missing. From December 2019 to January 2020, law enforcement agencies focused their efforts on the children's disappearance, Tammy's death, and Chad and Lori's departure from Idaho. Tammy's body was unearthed for an autopsy and evidence was gathered. The grandparents of Kobe and JJ appealed with the Daybells to return the children, even offering a $20,000 prize. Investigators voiced their fear for the children's safety, claiming that they were not with Chad and Lori and that Lori had refused to participate with the inquiry, instead choosing to flee the state with Chad. Chad Daybell was a loving husband and he was the support system of his children in this matter, the Daybell's lawyer said, adding that Lori was a devoted mother who resents associations to the contrary. The attorney plans to address the allegations once they have moved beyond speculation and rumor. Lori rented a storage locker in Rexburg in October 2019, according to authorities. They uncovered several things in the storage locker, including clothes, motorcycles, and images associated with Tylee and JJ. Lori abruptly left Rexburg in late November 2019, leaving all these items behind. Lori and her brother would be seen on video moving items from and to the locker before she left. Lori was detained in Hawaii by the Kauai Police Department on February 20th, 2020. In Madison County, Idaho, she was charged with 2 felony counts of desertion, non-support of dependent children, and 3 misdemeanors. Her bond was set at $5 million at first, but was later reduced to $1 million after she was extradited back to Idaho. Lori went in court in Rexburg, Idaho in May to request another reduction in her bond, which was denied. Several local bond businesses apparently refused to cooperate with her. On March 24th, NBC News published documents revealing that Chad and Lori became persuaded that Tylee and JJ had been possessed and were turned into zombies. During the search warrant on June 9th, police discovered that human remains were buried in what was thought to be a pet cemetery at Chad's property. Later that day, Chad was arrested for obstructing or concealing evidence and later charged with criminal murder. The next day, his bond was set at $1 million. The Woodcock and Ryan families verified on June 10th that the human remains discovered on Chad's farm were those of Tylee and JJ. On June 13th, Rexburg police formally confirmed this discovery. Lori was charged with obstruction or hiding of evidence regarding her children's remains on July 2nd, after prosecutors dropped 2 allegations against her related to desertion and non-supportive dependent children. Lori's bond was reduced by Madison County Judge Michelle Millard on July 17th as a result of the dismissal of 2 felony counts against her. The amount was $50,000 for each charge, for a total of $150,000 in bond. It was also said that Chad would still be required to post $1 million in Fremont County in order to be released. Lori's jury trial for the Madison County allegations had been scheduled for January 25th to 29th, 2021. Chad and Lori were indicted on conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deceit charges on May 25th, 2021 for the murders of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. Lori has also been charged with grand theft in connection with the Social Security survivor benefits. Chad was charged with insurance fraud in connection with a life insurance policy he had on Tammy Daybell, for which he was the beneficiary and received funds after her death. Lori was ruled incompetent and unfit to stand trial on May 27, 2021, and her case was stayed. She has since been found competent to stand trial after receiving mental health treatment, incompetent, and then competent again. Lori Vallow Daybell was found guilty of all felony charges in Boise, Idaho courtroom on May 12, 2023. Usually I don't put my input into cases, but I think it's fair to say that this lady and the guy that she was with, Chad, they should be in jail for the rest of their lives. They don't deserve freedom. They don't deserve peace. They don't even deserve time in the backyard. I know in prison that usually the people that hurt children usually, they get dealt with. But this lady, she deserves to be dealt with. She's the worst of the worst. She killed her disabled adopted son. She killed her biological daughter, and then she ran off with a man that she helped kill his wife. I really believe that these people don't deserve peace, and that they don't deserve anything. Like, they shouldn't be eligible for, what's that called again? That they could receive? I believe it's called, what's that thing that Trump did? I don't remember the name. If I figure out the name, I'll put it in the video. But yeah, that lady, she doesn't deserve nothing. The guy doesn't deserve nothing. To be honest, I just hope they receive no peace. And I hope that their prison time that they'll have for the rest of their life is a terrible time. But it is critical to remember all the victims in this case and to be grateful that justice was done, even if it was not bringing them back. That concludes this week's episode. Don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Critical Crime. Please check out our social media at Critical Crime 1 for TikTok, Critical Crime 1 respectively for Instagram, and our Critical Crime YouTube page that you're on right now. We post videos every Thursday, and tune in next week for another episode. Stay critical.